wanted to say things about our two end-of-the-year events that we took place right there in May. One was the SCSD Foundation came out to the schools and gave out their annual grants to teachers, and that's such an awesome day. And then the other thing was over at Jefferson Intermediate, they had their Love Awards. And those two events are just, those are perfect examples of why and how St. Charles is such a special place. So I want to make sure I mention those two things. And then on June 4th, we had two outstanding graduations at both SCHS and SC West. Congratulations to all of our 2022 graduates and their family and friends. Thank you to you all for coming as well. And just an also special thank you to the graduation coordinators, the high school administrators, maintenance, custodial crews, our technology department, everybody for coming together and making it just a special day. We were back indoors, which it makes it a little bit cooler, especially when you have a big robe on. So it was just an outstanding day to honor our graduates. Speaking of the month of June, that means we are in this summer mode, and we're already hard at work getting ready for next year. A couple things, highlights, major building renovation projects at Monroe and Success Campus are all well on the way. I'm sure Dr. Brazil will have a quick update about that later on. Making good progress there. And then summer school and extended school years actually starts Monday, so we're excited about that. And then summer camps activities are in full swing as well. Summer is always a productive time in the SCSD. And I will say a side note to that, since the end of school, I think this room and our archive room and sometimes some of our conference rooms upstairs are filled with teachers, either getting PD already, on various things, working on curriculum with math and science. It's just amazing. It's amazing that our teachers, they just don't stop. I want them to take a break. I want them to take a breath, but it's amazing to see them still in the buildings and working. So this time it's my privilege to announce we have yet another new administrator that is joining us. Stephanie, would you like to stand for us? This is Dr. Stephanie Jewett. She's going to be our next head principal of Hardin Middle School. You can clap for that. Dr. Jewett comes to us from the Pattonville School District, where she has served as an assistant principal of Holman Middle School. We are so excited that she's joined the SCSD family. Would you like to introduce who's with you tonight so we know? This is my husband, Mr. Jewett. So Dr. Jewett, welcome. We are so happy for you. Anything you want to say? I'm putting you on the spot.
I'm just so excited to start this next part of my career here. I've been welcomed like family to St. Charles, which is how I feel about how I want to feel in the place that I'm about to start working in, and I'm excited to serve the community.
Thank you, Dr. Jewett. One more hand for it. How about that? Thankfully, even with the COVID numbers rising, obviously we probably have seen that in the news a little bit in the St. Louis region, we have continued to stay rather low for us. Now, one thing is obviously our students and most of our staff are home for summer break. But we do have summer school starting next week, so I want to remind everyone that each individual has the option of wearing a mask when they feel they need to. All SSC buildings are optional masking. And just as things progress, I want to reiterate that everything we do centers around the safety and continuity of our learning environment for our students and staff. I want to thank our Board of Education and staff for all they have done this year to keep us moving in the right direction throughout the pandemic. And also, I always say this, but together we have accomplished great things, and we're looking forward to a very hopefully healthy, safe 22-23 school year. And then, again, I know I have a lot to say tonight, but I've got to talk a little bit about the horrific incident in Texas. So in response to what we saw in Texas a week or so ago, I sent a message to all the SCSD stakeholders, and I just want to read a quick excerpt from that. But we said to our families, district teachers, administrators, and support staff members truly care about each and every one of our students and their families. We care about the safety and well-being of our students today, tomorrow, and every day moving forward. It's why we choose to reach, teach, and empower the future of our community. I believe and feel we have a safe learning environment and community. However, we will never stop making sure we're as safe as we can be and continue to have safety as our number one priority. Over the years, we have installed various safety measures within our schools, and we will continue to evaluate our buildings and install further mitigation strategies and procedures as needed. I also go on to say we know that events like this are not only tragic and painful, but they can often lead to anxiety and fear felt by our entire school community. It's important to stay strong as a community, to look out for one another, and to do everything we can to prevent such actions from occurring. We will do everything in our power to keep the SCSD community safe, strong, and focused on the betterment of our students. Vigilance in this goal remains unwavering, and I believe this. No one is alone in our district. We are truly together in this journey. And then I have one quick added note that wasn't in the letter, but just so I want people to know, we have a great continuity in our community leadership, and so I'm in constant communication with the chief of police regarding school and community safety, and we will continue to work closely with all the community leaders to make sure our learning environment is at the highest levels of safety and security. On a little bit more positive note, spring sports and activities finished strong. We had 2 individual state champions at St. Charles West in track and field. Congratulations to Lily Jackson and Braden Gollner. So awesome job to them. You can clap for that. And I know I'm a little long-winded tonight, but stay with me. And a little bit, now we're gonna bring it down a little bit. Tonight is the last board meeting for both Dr. Danielle Tormala and Dr. Charles Brazil. You can clap for them. So I'm gonna go off script for just a second. Sorry, I'm not taking my mic, but this is just a small token of our appreciation. This is personally from our leadership team that we wanted to get for you. But again, we've talked about these guys before in our meetings, but I've had the privilege of working with both of them for 6 years. Gentlemen are taking the place here too, so we're excited about our future, but we are going to deeply miss both of you. And thank you for all that you've done for us. So one more hand for both of you. I'm almost done, I promise. So tonight we have worked hard to prepare this meeting. We've got policy changes readings, we've got MSIP 6 preview, we've got a budget adoption for you tonight, and also our district financial report. 2 more things. Also, President Towers tonight will have information to share with all of us tonight regarding the City of St. Charles School District Board of Education's effort in a letter to request the governor to veto Senate Bill 724. So I won't steal your thunder, but that's really important, so we'll talk about that just in a little bit. And then, again, as the summer continues, I hope our staff and our families and our students have a chance to breathe a little bit, rest, and just get ready for a great year, because we're working hard to get ready for 22-23. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, item 3.04 is board communications. Ellen, okay. Well, under board communications, I have been in communication. I talked with some people at Jeff City. We've been encouraged for all of us as citizens, not just board members, to encourage the governor to veto this Senate Bill 724. This bill, and I'm not good with numbers. Charles isn't looking at me. But this threshold of a 10% for bond issues that our citizens have already passed, it's just such a disaster for any district. And Senator Eigels brought this bill originally to the entire legislature, and he did not get much support. Most of the legislature felt that their constituents would not support something like this. So he amended the bill so it's just St. Charles County, and that's 5 school districts, we're among them, that would be impacted by this bill. Not only is it unfair that it's just our county out of the entire state of Missouri, but when I look at, even if this was statewide, as a voter, if I had to go back and re-vote on something that I already passed, and it kept coming back every time the threshold was met, I'd be getting pretty tired of it as a voter. And as employees, people who are working these projects, and we have to stop, if I'm correct on this, we have to stop that construction until we get approval to move again. Those companies then stop. Those employees are not getting paid. The whole ripple effect is just ridiculous. So we have a letter tonight, and it's in our board docs that I'm hoping our board will sign as our board. We already have a letter that has been mailed, or it's on its way. Okay, that the whole county, 5 school districts signed as superintendents and board presidents, but I felt we should have our own letter, if you're in agreement with me. And then also to encourage those of you who are sitting here and those of you in the audience who are watching, that we need to encourage our citizens, if you feel like I do, that, well, as I've stated, the ripple effect of this is just, I'm sorry, just ridiculous. And maybe our PTOs, our booster clubs, and just our citizens, even if you're not a parent, you're a voter. And you're going to be having to go back and look at and re-vote on things that you've already approved once. So I would like to encourage everyone to act quickly, because it's sitting on his desk ready to be signed, for him to veto this Senate Bill 724. So that's my message. Okay, thank you. We're ready for item 3.05. This is audience comments. I do have some people who'd like to speak to the board. And the
Donna,
first,
do you want me to read first?
oh, I do have to, yes, I'm sorry. We have,
That's okay. All regular and special meetings of the board shall be open to the public. Since the board desires to be a good listener and be responsive to the community, persons desiring to address the board may do so during the time so allotted on the agenda and according to established procedures. During the audience portion of each board meeting, patrons are invited by the president to speak for or against any proposal on the tentative agenda or on any other school concern. The individual is asked to identify him or herself, limit comments to a few minutes, and avoid discussing personalities. The president reserves the right to limit the number of presentations and/or length of comments. At the discretion of the president, patrons may be recognized at other times during the board meeting. The board is very interested in audience comments. According to board policy, members cannot respond during the actual meeting. The board will listen to and research all audience comments. If necessary, additional follow-up will occur through district administrators.
thank you. So we do have some audience comment cards. The first one is April Reichert.
Thank you. My name's April Richard. I'm a grandma, retired nurse. There's a few things that I've been reading about that are interesting, and I hope you research it. I've been made aware of a recent May 5th USDA new interpretation for the school lunch program. I don't know if you're aware of those, but I did copy some of these, and I have one for each of you. It's going to include discriminations based on sexual orientation and gender identity. This links to the lunch program money that you're going to get from the federal government. I know, sounds strange. This will, as I understand, link children's lunch money to primarily SNAP to allow children to be introduced to the LGBTQ lifestyle in like special health education classes. And it's unclear exactly how many of the children or what grade. This is what I'm hoping you'll research. Some of the workbooks I've seen for the health and sex education classes for grade school children are very inappropriate. I would say even for junior high and high school, but I'm old. You are all much more educated, have degrees in psychology, special education. You're very much more aware of what affects children than I am. And I hope that you will research this and make your decisions very carefully. And I thank you for, can I give these, just pass them down, or?
Okay, thank you. The next card is Kristen Donnebrink.
Right. Good evening, district admin, board members, and community members. My name is Kristen Dannenbrink, and this is my colleague Jana Geiger. We would like to introduce ourselves as the new co-vice presidents of the SCA Teachers Union. We're here this evening to recognize some of the amazing accomplishments of our SCA members. Many members from K-12 are working cooperatively to rewrite the science curriculum this summer. They wasted no time meeting the day after school ended, and some are continuing to meet to write assessments together. Members from Coverdale, Monroe, and Jefferson attended the 2022 Missouri School-Wide Positive Behavior Support Summer Institute last week at Lake of the Ozarks. Both Coverdale and Monroe Elementary received the Silver Level Recognition Award of Excellence for implementation of school-wide positive behavior support, and Jefferson Intermediate was awarded the Bronze Level Recognition Award. With all district schools beginning to incorporate positive behavior support, we can't wait to hear more from these members. Also, SCA member Kim Elder, a reading specialist at Harris and Monroe, had an article recently published titled "The Power of Mindfulness." This article was printed for the summer edition of Something Better, which is Missouri NEA's official magazine. Missouri NEA photographers and SCA President Brendan Kearns got the opportunity to tour the classrooms Miss Elder works in to see the great work she and her colleagues are doing. Member Shelby Zansky, won an award as Lindenwood's Outstanding Cooperating Teacher Educator Award. Members John Omarashmi, Kellery Anders, and Julie Dreyer were all winners of the 2022 Randy Schilling STEM Educators Grant. Kate Cox was awarded the Outstanding Elementary Teacher of the Year Award. Jennifer Painter won the Outstanding Secondary Teacher Award, and Julie Dreyer won the Outstanding Elementary Specialist of the Year Award. These are some of the many amazing things happening in our district, and we could not be more proud of our members. Thank you again for your support from our district administrators and our school board members for providing a place for all of us to grow and inspiring us to reach new heights. Thank you.
Thank you. The next audience member is Jenna Hone.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jen Hone, parent of an incoming second grader at Harris Elementary. I'm here to ask for changes that are essentially free and positively benefit all students. At the beginning of the meeting, we talked about safety, and part of safety includes computer and internet usage. I emailed all of you on May 25th, and I'm here to reiterate my concerns regarding technology usage in our school district and share that SCSD has an opportunity to positively influence our children. The first weekend in May, our 6-year-old created a paper sword and was mimicking slashing his throat. He then began to pretend that he was holding others in our house hostage. Over the next few days, he began stalking around the house with a Nerf gun. He would come around corners silently and sneak up on us. We sat him down and discussed why and how the behaviors were inappropriate. He understood. We asked where he was learning the behaviors, and he told us he watched YouTube videos on his Chromebook in class. We validated this by asking him to show us on our home laptop and were horrified at the content he was viewing. Based on an internet audit we requested from the district, over 10 school days, he watched 143 minutes of violent videos on YouTube that he was able to find with the search phrase Nerf. Some of these videos even depict shootings in environments found in schools. SCSD children can access YouTube or Google and watch a horrifying video that depicts first-person shooting with body counts. Why? How? And what are you going to do to follow your own policy guidance, which states, in accordance with the law, the content filter will be used to protect against access to visual depictions that are obscene or harmful to minors. Under no circumstances is it acceptable for an elementary student to view this obscene and harmful content. We are asking SCSD to take this opportunity to have a positive impact on our kids. First, create an opt-in or opt-out policy that engages parents to understand the content their children are viewing during school. Second, expecting a teacher to actively monitor 19 screens is unrealistic. They have enough on their plates as it is. It's even more unrealistic to expect elementary students to self-censor their usage. Therefore, Chromebooks should have tighter regulations. Thirdly, there should be curriculum parameters around technology usage in the classroom. You censor what teachers can consume by blocking sites like Netflix. So let's create parameters around what our children can access. There is no reason a first grader needs to be on the Chromebook for an hour a day. There should be supplemental activities for these quote-unquote free times. The technology policy calls out guidance to regularly conduct a consensus. Has that ever been done? What data was gathered? What was the outcome? There should be regular audits of all students' usage. It should not take a parent witnessing their child mimicking violence to learn that there are holes in the county's filters. And I also want to say that this is not just our district. This also applies to other districts. So I don't want to come up here and point fingers and be adversarial. This is a challenge across the country, but we have the opportunity to fix it within our district.
Jan, I'm sorry, but your time is up.
Thank you.
Do you have a closing thought?
Yeah, I do. That would be great. Violent media consumption is directly correlated to aggression and mental health. Please take this opportunity to create a safer environment for our children by enhancing our technology standards. Thank you.
The next audience member is Matt Hone.
It's not a coincidence we have the same last name.
Yeah.
And guess what? I'm here to talk about the same thing. But before I begin, I'd actually like to thank my wife, because without her support, we would not have followed up on this. We would not be here today, and we would not be sticking up for our child and the rest of the children in our schools. I would be just sitting at home getting more and more angry and frustrated. So thank you, honey. My son came home from school and pretended to murder me. He stabbed me. He said, "You're dead." He pretended to slit his throat, fell on the ground, and said, "Blah, now I'm dead." That was Friday. On Saturday, he pretended to stalk around the house. I'm sorry, what?
It's on.
Oh, I can speak up too. I get a little emotional when I talk about this, so thank you. He stalked around the house. He shot his brother and sister, pretended to kill them. After discussing with him, we learned that he had been watching the same violent videos that my wife had mentioned at school on his Chromebook. Many of these videos are in the first-person shooter style. I guess apparently it's popular with video games. We do not do that at home. But they have body counts, realistic gun noises. Bam, bam. He was listening to that in the classroom with headphones on, looking at all his friends. Body counts. Environments such as cafeterias, environments such as libraries, locker rooms, playgrounds, shooting each other, watching that in classroom. Environments very similar to those that are found in schools. 143 minutes of class time over just 10 days was spent watching these videos. My wife has emailed those to y'all. Have you all watched those videos or any of those clips? I would wager that none of you were able to make it through 143 minutes. We were able to get through a few minutes and then scope around. But I would hope that you do not feel that this is an appropriate way to spend class time. And if you are in agreement with us that this is extremely inappropriate, then you must agree that the technology in place, or technology policy that is in place that enabled this to be visualized in the classroom is broken and needs to be fixed. To resolve this immediate issue, Jen and I met with leadership from the school. We received a spreadsheet export of 30 days of our son's computer usage. We queried this, we analyzed it, we filtered, because we use Excel on a daily basis. We know how to use that computer program in which we receive the format. I would wager that many of the parents in the school district may not be able to disseminate this information from that data that they received. So we were able to determine, what and where he watched. We then emailed, we called, and we met with school leadership, and the result was that the school banned the word Nerf. Not guns, not firearms, not shooters, but the word Nerf.
Matt, you need to have a closing comment.
The damage has been done. Our son is fine now, of course. But it took my son pretending to murder his family, meetings, phone calls, emails, just to get a single word banned. This reactive approach is hurting our children and putting them in jeopardy and danger. So I would request that you please consider amending this policy. Thank you.
Okay, before we move on to item 3.06 and the rest of our meeting, we usually take a break at this point and allow those of you who have other commitments and other things to do this evening to make a break. We'll take a 5-minute recess or 5-minute pause. Okay, to continue on with our meeting, we're at item 3.06. Do I have a motion to amend or adopt the agenda?
I'd like to move we amend the agenda to remove item 4.08, staff handbooks, from the consent agenda. I just have a quick question.
So we'll move item 4.08 to item 5.01 when we get there. Do I have a motion to approve the amended agenda?
I motion to approve the amended agenda.
Do I have a second? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so the consent agenda for efficiency, the school board utilizes a consent agenda. Items placed on this consent agenda are routine in nature, are among the many decisions that the board has already determined or in the domain of the administration. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended?
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Then item 5.01, we're moving the staff handbook, discussion.
Student handbook.
a student, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh.
I said it wrong, I think.
She meant 4.07.
4.07. Yeah, I made a mistake.
Do we have to go back and be amended, or can we just change the? Okay.
Okay.
Okay, item 4.07, student handbook and code of conduct is up for discussion.
Yeah, every year we print out a copy of the student handbook and for every student, and I'm here to tell you experience has shown that students don't read them, and they leave them in the classroom. So, you know, we could go to the trouble of printing them up and dumping them directly in the recycle bin. We could put them online and make the kids sign that they read them. Because now we hand them out and have the kids sign that they've read them and understand them. And we're just encouraging them to lie. So, and I don't mean that it needs to be done. I plan to approve the handbooks as presented, but we should think about saving that money because they're not reading them. Make a few copies. And how long has it been since they have been audited or, I know the principals update them every year, make them for the current year, but I think there's some things in there that need to be discussed. And I would like to see parents get involved in writing the student handbook. It's just a thought.
To talk about that just a second, just so you know, so every year, in the second semester, pretty much second semester, I will reach out to the principals and we will, especially at the high school level, one person will kind of take it for both high schools and each level, and we will start looking at it. And so it's not just updated with like different names. They look at, and we tweak not each, but we do tweak things as we go. So even the year, when we're disciplining and things are happening, we keep notes of things that we like, you know what, that's not quite appropriate anymore. Maybe we've gotten a little bit, and so we do keep track of that each year and then make those corrections for the next year. And so that does happen. Now, we don't have parents come in and help us with that, but we do that. The other thing is we go, just so you know too, as we go to PBIS and moving forward to that positive behavior interventions systems, there will be probably a natural progression to some different language from their system as well that will help us probably revise our handbooks as we move forward as well. So the process is there. Principals do, Jeremy, you're here. I don't know if you want to, as a principal, every year we do review it. It's not just updating names and things, but we do look at how we're tweaking things to make sure that we're appropriate with our codes and our consequences.
The other thing that you pointed out about signing it, realistically, even back in my day, students always had to sign it, yes, I've read the handbook and the code of conduct. And you know that some do, but still the opportunity is there. And I think it needs to be signed. I don't think that's encouraging children. I mean, it's their upbringing and the family's decision on how people sign things. But the fact that we give them an opportunity to review it and be knowledgeable of it so that they're aware of that code of conduct, because they're going to be held accountable to it.
Right, but why not post it online?
Well,
We do have it online.
okay, so.
Okay, yeah, but I just object to the waste. Because,
Yeah.
it's like, you give them out in AIP and there's 30 left in the rooms, so.
Well, I see Ellen's point, like, it is posted online, and don't the teachers even, they go through it in class with them? I mean, so, and then you give them a certain, and here's your form to sign, you need to go online and read it, and then it's their prerogative, but they have to turn in the form.
So maybe not the entire handbook,
Right.
just the paper to sign, and explaining, now you need to go online and review it and bring back the signed
Yeah.
document.
It's 75 pages.
Well, you're right.
Our printer actually suggested the same thing
Yeah.
this week, that it's a lot of pages to run, so it's something certainly to consider.
Well, is that something we can amend for this year, or?
Oh, I think, so to your point, one, we do post it in our website so everybody can, so it's already there, right? So we don't have to print out. Did you want to add something, Chris?
I'm saying if the point is to all this is to avoid some ways which make sense to me from an logical standpoint, I don't think it'd be too much of an ask of the technology department to say, instead of printing them out, just creating a form where each student can digitally sign their name, make it, or whatever the procedure is now delivering the information, is we have one-to-one Chromebooks for the kids, so they can log in, go to that site, review it during whatever time they normally would, instead of being paper-based, to be digitally based, and they just do the digital signature with the way we have.
And that can happen next year. We can start that next year. Or something like that, I mean,
Right.
where it's not 75 pages for each child.
Right.
Yeah,
I don't mean to speak for Kevin, but I don't think that's too much of an ask.
Is it too much of an ask to look at what's already online for this fall and just have, if we are at the point where they can all digitally sign?
I
at
think
least-
that's what we're saying, that's doable.
Oh,
That's
oh,
doable.
just, okay.
yeah, I think we can just do it.
Pending approval, these will be updated tomorrow on the website.
Okay. So we could just electronically do it in the fall? Okay. Well, then, the item, we still need to approve the student handbooks and code of conduct. Do I have a motion to approve them? Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, that passes. Item 6.01 is our second reading on policy DFA, -2. Any comments on that? It was just, for once, it was a simple kind of thing. Do I have a motion to approve the policy change?
I move to approve the policy DFA as presented.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, that passes. Item 7.01, it's our calendar, school year 22-23, breakfast and lunch prices. And
So you may be thinking it's been a while since you've considered this, and you're correct, because we've been serving students for free for 2+ years now. So courtesy of the federal government, they've been underwriting our program fully. They underwrite it anyway. So even at these prices, so for instance, right now you can see our elementary lunch price of $2.85. Recommended will go up to $2.95, 10 cents up for lunch, 5 cents for breakfast. We're already still receiving 31 cents per meal above that price, even for a full paid meal. So the federal government continues to underwrite the school lunch program, even going back to the previous system, which we had pre-pandemic. We do anticipate that Jeremy will have some difficulties implementing the National School Lunch Program guidelines again, because people have just frankly not been used to paying. So a corollary to this request is that we have done a couple of things. We've made a lot of money, frankly, this year with the federal government paying all the bills, because we've served a lot more students. So our anticipation for next year is a couple of things. One, we'll probably see participation drop because the majority of our parents will have to start paying again. And that number two, there will be resistance to paying. One of the things that we did, because we made a good profit this year, is Coverdell is where we're having K through 6 summer school. Coverdell's not an authorized site to receive the free meals. St. Charles West, where we have 7 through 12, is. So we're going to underwrite the cost, meaning that we're going to pay it out of our profits that we made during this year, so that everybody going to summer school can still eat free all summer. And then we also feel like we probably, because of our cost increase, we need to raise meal prices 10 cents for lunch and 5 cents for breakfast. We also will be able to, just a little bit of inside baseball, school finance that you've probably heard me say before, but the school lunch program is operated as a proprietary fund, meaning that it sits within Fund 1, which we'll talk about with the budget here in a little bit, but it's proprietary, meaning that it's not supposed to cost us as a district any money. Between the federal government's support and parent support, that should pay for all the costs. And so if we have a surplus, like we do this year, all of those surplus funds have to stay within the program. So that's why we felt good about going ahead and saying we'll underwrite that cost for summer school, because we've got to use those funds within the program somewhere anyway. The remainder of those surplus funds go for things like replacing small wares and kitchen equipment, upgrading our kitchens, upgrading our cafeterias. And that doesn't have to all be done at one time, but we certainly will continue to look at that in the future as we go. But as you can see, even with our price increases, you see where our other county schools are. Everybody is in kind of the same ballpark as far as their current pricing and then what they're asking their boards to do for next year. Questions?
No discussion? I'm glad you pointed out about any profits stay within the
And so
food
that's,
program.
and just one more comment there, I guess, occasionally because we're not self-operated and we contract with Chartwells to run our program, sometimes people think, well, it's to their advantage to earn a profit, and it really isn't. They get paid a set fee per meal served, period. And that's their profit that we know in advance that they're going to make per meal served. So they do get paid more if more children eat, but we want more children to eat. So, I don't ever feel bad if they make a little more money there. But as far as the surplus in the program, that all stays with the district and there is no bonus structure, anything like that that would benefit Chartwells in any way.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the breakfast and lunch prices for 22-23? Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that passes. Item 7.02 is our MSIP 6 preview. Teach us everything now and get us ready for this.
Well, my parting gift to you is, I'm not going to talk. So I have an amazing team who will help lead us forward in a really great way. And so we have Nicole Adams, Jessica Evans, and Tina Lauer here tonight to walk us through what we think we know and also probably what we don't know yet about the proposed new MSIP 6. So I'm going to turn this over to them.
Is that it?
Yep.
Sorry, do I need to repeat all that? Okay. We have participated in a few webinars with DESE to try to prepare for this, so we know about as much as they do. Missouri School Improvement Plan, MSIP 6, what is it? It is the state's accountability system for reviewing and accrediting local education agencies. It outlines the expectations for student achievement with the goal of each student graduating success-ready for college, career, and life. So basically how we're evaluated. An overview of MSIP is, you can see the first cycle started in 1991, and this newest cycle will be MSIP 6. So we've gone through this 6 times. The comprehensive MSIP accountability system was established in 1990 and has evolved with each version. The MSIP 6 standards and indicators were approved by the State Board of Education in February 2020 after more than 2 years of discussion, work, and review by educators and practitioners around the state to set forth a new method for the state to determine the extent to which students are meeting necessary standards and obtaining necessary skills and knowledge for college, career, and beyond. So some key changes you'll see on this chart. The first one is the annual performance report and classification score. So we are moving with, for MSIP 6, 70% performance and 30% continuous improvement. With achievement, it will be measured with continuous MPI, which we will be going over what these mean at the end of the presentation. For student group denominator and free and reduced price lunch, we're moving to direct certification. For attendance, there will be a continuous improvement standards that we'll report. For equity, we will now provide an equity report. For high school assessments required when course credit is awarded. And for continuous improvement, we will have a 1-year pilot and then a 3-year phase-in.
Hi. So the provisions for 2022, obviously, are achievement status targets, so all students and student groups will be developed no later than fall 2022. But I also know that, as Dr. Tormel just said, and as Nicole just said, sometimes we have to follow along with what DESE is doing, and also if they don't hit that target, we also kind of move with the changes as well. The performance score alone cannot correspond to a decline in accreditation rating, which is a positive thing because it's going to now take into consideration other items as well. So that's a positive. All data will be reported publicly, and DESE will provide advanced data reports to the LEAs, which they've done. The 2022 APR will be based on 1 year of data only. So that's an important thing right now because, again, that's different than what they've done in the past. The continuous improvement cycle will be phased in under a 3-year cycle. So this year, 2022, will be a pilot year, and for the continuous improvement process, which will be explained, and the volunteer LEAs informing the process. We have volunteered for one portion of that because we had the opportunity to choose whether or not to pilot and to choose which portions, if any, we did want to pilot, and because we believe in our CSIP. Chris, can you go ahead and go to next? Thank you. We are going to participate in the CSIP pilot opportunity. We believe that we have a very strong CSIP, and we would like Department of Education to go ahead and take a look at that, just to make sure that we can get some of their feedback. And this will also give us a chance to take a greater look at our CSIP and how it pertains to what will work for DESE. Also, we will be going to a curriculum review workshop in July because Department of Education is going to take a closer look at our curriculum with the new MSIP 6. So they're going to go through exactly what Department of Education would like to see and what we can do to adjust. Also, the CSIP pilot will enable a calibration of the review process and provide feedback, and I just explained that to you as well. The pilot process will refine DESE's procedures, practice, and establish greater reliability throughout the state. And the workshop that actually I will be attending will allow us to get a better understanding of what the state will expect from the curriculum. It's me. Okay. Also, MSIP 6 APR also uses continuous improvement standards, and this is actually a very positive thing as well, that continuous improvement standard, as a way to recognize our work toward improving the opportunities provided to all of our students. So as Nicole mentioned in that chart before, they've added items like an equity report as well. So that will give a broader picture of what we are accomplishing as a district, and I believe also give our district in particular a good representation and have the Department of Education and the state to be able to see all of the work that we are doing progressively. Also, we will complete the following forms for DESE's review prior to earning points in this category in the continuous improvement standards. So strategic planning document, which is our CSIP, and that's what we are piloting. The climate and culture survey and response to the standards and components of standards TL1 success ready students. So again, those areas are being piloted. We are choosing to go with the strategic planning document, or CSIP. Thank you.
Hello. DESE has divided up different types of standards. The performance standards here are basically the same performance standards that we have been calculated with on the past. We have been given like a preview the last couple of years that we had data. We didn't get data in the COVID year, but they were showing our achievement growth, and we got a nice little graph that showed our progress if we were being calculated on MSIP 6. So currently, we will be, our performance will be calculated on achievement status, growth, success-ready students, graduation rate, and then we also have to follow up with our graduates to find out if they have gone in straight into career, military, two-year college, or a four-year college. All right, next slide, please. And these are the big standards and indicators that those also will fall under, the ones that I just mentioned. The one that affects the board is the leadership one. And in the leadership, it includes school board leadership, ethics, continuous school improvement, operations and resource management, board policies, the superintendent roles and responsibilities, personnel and program evaluation, communication with the community, personnel's hiring practices, and school safety. So those will all fall under the leadership, which basically is your role. And then we also have the effective teaching and learning, collaborative climate and culture, database decision-making, alignment of standards, curriculum, and assessment, and equity and access. So what they have previously talked about in our presentation, they fall under all of those other ones. And Chris, can you click on that MSIP thing? Yeah. So there's a link on that slide that goes directly to this MSIP 6 rule. And if you can scroll down on that document a little bit. Yeah, keep going. Yeah, a little bit more. All right, right here. So that's basically, this is where it actually starts, and it explains, I didn't want to put these all in a million different slides, but so I just put the link there so that you can preview that yourself, and this goes into a lot more detail about each of those standards and indicators. All right, and then go back to the slideshow and the last, well, the second to last slide. Yeah, I think it's that one. So this is the MSIP scoring. As Nicole said, we're moving from 100% performance to this new scoring. So you'll see that we have 70% is performance, and the other 30% is the continuous improvement. And that's going to be based on those indicators that I mentioned. And they're going to be looking at the success rate of our students, our CSIP plan, our curriculum guides, and all of that kind of stuff. So you will see that all the assessment part where we will be getting our, our report like we have been with our bar graphs and all that is going to just be 70% of our scoring, and then the other 30% is based on that continuous improvement. All right, and last slide is questions we may or we may not have the answers to because Desi keeps changing. But we would like to try to answer any questions you may have about MSIP 6. Yeah, well, that's true. We're still trying to learn what we don't know already, so.
And so we kind of have a running joke that whenever we do have a webinar and there's a Q&A session, it's really a Q&A session because there's no answers for many of the questions that school districts have in regards to implementation, in regards to how this is really going to roll out and transpire. And it's kind of a waiting game to see what will happen.
Lots of questions, concerns at the superintendent level, just how this is all going to, how it's all going to go and be laid out. So I've been in, Danielle's been there too. We've had several conversations or been in some sessions with our commissioner of DESE as well. And again, a lot of questions and concerns, but not a lot of clear answers at this point. But we wanted to at least give you an understanding or at least give you an outline of what we know at this point.
And in previous MSIP revisions, DESE has always provided basically a run-through of what your district's data would look like under the new system. DESE has not yet done any kind of calculation, to our knowledge, that they've shared with any of the districts. So if they're doing that, it's behind the scenes. And so it's a little disconcerting to leaders who are trying to plan for the future. And this next year is a pilot year. However, the data will be reported. it will be reported to the public. It just won't be used for accountability. And so.
That's the concern.
That's a concern because we don't know what we're walking into. So we don't know yet how to position ourselves or what changes we need to make sure that we're performing as expected on this accreditation model until we do it. And then we'll have to roll with the punches.
And just so you know, Ed Plus has done some of those simulations. They've tried to do some, and they don't have all the calculations, but enough. And across the board, St. Louis region, the rating scales don't look very good. It just doesn't look good for any of the districts. So we'll just have to see how it plays out, but we didn't want you guys to be, with Danielle still here, I thought, you know what, this would be a great time just to give you a preview so you know kind of what's coming, so.
And so I also have to mention, so the team has all been going through all of the webinars. Anytime there's a webinar, we are signing up. And Dr. Draper also has joined our team on those webinars so that he's ready to roll as well. So,
And this isn't a question, it's an age-old comment about this whole system, that depending on how they look at the data, and districts are spending more and more time gathering data to verify that we're doing a good job in this district. I'm proud of what we do in this district. It's difficult to always, as you say, find the wording and find how to show it on documents that what they're looking for. And
It has a name. It's called bureaucracy.
well, there you go.
Yeah,
And
so we'll just call it that.
To that point, and we don't have to belabor the point, but there is, through the Ed Plus group that we belong to with all the St. Louis regions, there is a group that is bringing things forward, because we're all about, we need accountability. It's not like we don't want accountability, but what does it look like, and what does a system bring that shows a better light of really what's going on in schools? And so we do have a group that's working on that and bringing some alternative things to the table, so. Good job, as always.
Thank you guys so much.
we have a good team.
last presentation done.
Good job. You had a mic to drop.
Yeah. It's too big.
Yes. Do I have a second? I second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that passes. And we're ready for, item 7.03 is our budget adoption.
Yeah, so you have a copy of the budget draft in your board docs, and I want to just point out a few things about it. First of all, you'll notice there are lots of pictures of our students and staff throughout the document. We've tried to add some graphs and some visual depictions as well, because this is really the introductory section of what is a much larger document that I've encouraged Tina Adams and Lavinia Draper in our business office to consider completing again, which we've done many years in the past for the Meritorious Budget Award. And the theory behind the MBA award program is not that it somehow magically gives us more money in the budget, but that the goal is to strive to make your budget more transparent and accessible to a layperson that wants to pick it up. So this piece can be taken as a lift-out executive summary, so that's what you have here tonight. Starts with lots of introductory information about the district, our CSIP. Your shining faces are all in there as members of the board. We've updated with our new administration. And so then really I want to just make a couple of comments about highlights on this document, beginning on page 12, which shows in graph form kind of where we're spending our personnel money. There are two graphs, both pie graphs. One shows the certificated personnel percentages, and you can see that the vast majority of our money on certified personnel are teachers, but then a variety of other titles of people that are also considered administrator or certified personnel that hold a teacher's certificate. including, of course, all our administrators, but other people like speech pathologists and instructional coaches, counselors, media specialists, librarians, those types of folks. And then down at the bottom, then this to me is also interesting. You can see really almost half of our support staff are either secretaries or paraprofessionals. And then you see the other big areas include transportation and facilities, and then the rest of it splinters out quite a bit. But those folks on the bottom half of the page are folks that, with all due respect to our teachers and other certificated personnel, I've always thought of as my people. And they really are the ones that I tell them every time I get a chance that they really should be the people that nobody really knows if things are humming along and going smoothly. That kind of works against another one of my principles, is that we ought to be appreciating and recognizing our employees. But really, nobody knows who the 5% of the staff that are technology folks are unless the technology doesn't work. And the same with all those other areas. But it's nice to kind of see in visual form where we're spending our money on those folks. And you'll see in the financial report tonight that the vast majority of our money goes towards all of these people. On the next page, you can see 3 graphs that Ellen helped us improve this week. We were missing some labels that she pointed out that helped us to improve them a bit. But you can see where our average teacher salary is. It's consistently moved up. Again, that makes sense as we improve our teacher salary schedule. You've already approved 3.5% more money on that schedule for next year. So our teachers continue to earn a little bit more, and you see where they are versus the state average. You can see percentage of teachers with advanced degrees. We've always outpaced the state, again, in that category. And then our administrator salaries, and you can see that they're significantly better paid than their peers on an average statewide as well. And then on page 14, this is kind of where the rubber meets the road. The top shows our fund groups. The general fund is also called Fund 1 or the operating fund, but really it's everything else that doesn't fit into one of the others, right? So teachers fund is number 2, also referred to as the special revenue fund. All of our certificated staff salaries and benefits come out of Fund 2. If it doesn't go towards certificated staff, it can't go into Fund 2. Debt service is held completely separate, and all that goes in there is money that we collect locally on the debt service levy. All that is paid out of there is payment on the public debt. And then Fund 4 are capital projects and bond issues. So big equipment, buildings, renovations, that type of thing. So down at the bottom of that page are 3 summary statements. The first one is all funds, including debt service, where you see revenues projected of $96.5 million and expenditures of $111 million plus, showing a negative balance of $14.8 million. That sounds pretty scary, right? Then you take a look just at operating revenues, and it actually gets a little worse, meaning that the debt service fund next year will collect a little more than we'll pay out, right? So operating revenues minus debt service shows a $15.5 million deficit. So we added the third one to make us all feel a little bit better. Operating funds excluding the bond issue. So all of our bond issue funds were booked in the 2021 fiscal year. They're being spent out now. And so we're anticipating, if you eliminated all the bond issue spending from the budget next year, that we may actually run a positive balance. That $747,000 in your checkbook or mine is a lot of money. In the district's checkbook, you can see that's less than 1% of operating revenues, but we're anticipating that we would be in the positive. So that's the good news as you look at that budget. Debt service, remember, is held separately. We have, for at least the last 10 years, levied the same amount in debt service every year. Some years that's enough to pay all the debt and save a little bit. Some years it's not enough to pay all the debt, and we're leveraging against that savings. But that's why we have that amortization schedule that if you saw, it's already all the way at the end of the budget. We have that plotted out over the next 20 years so that we kind of know, as I've prepared the budget, as Jeremy will begin preparing the budgets, we know what we need to expect in terms of the debt service. Questions thus far? All right, then at the beginning at the bottom of page 14 and then moving over onto 15, there's a summary of where our operating revenues and expenditures go. We just mentioned our expenditures are significantly weighted towards our staff. Where do we get the money? More than $50 million is coming from local property taxes, our local patrons. And then we also get a significant amount of money from sales tax, which is considered a local revenue, even though merchants send all that money to Jefferson City and it comes back to us on a per pupil basis. That's an area where we're going to experience some growth this year. Basic formula for us is a very important piece because it's $8.8 million, but it's a piece that does not change very much for us because the way your basic revenue grows is if you grow in student count. And obviously we're not. We're very steady and on a slight decline. And so we're really not going to see additional basic revenue in the foundation formula. Transportation is an area where we're estimating we'll get almost $1.1 million additional next year because, again, I started teaching in 1991. That was the last time the state fully funded the transportation formula until next year. So thank goodness they have done that, but that was with a real big caveat that they may not do that in future years. So not guaranteed revenue, but it'll be nice to have again for next year at least. And then federal programs, obviously the big news there is our big three usually in federal programs are Title I, special education, and food service. Those continue pretty similar. Again, we mentioned the changes going back to the old style in food service. But right now we have a significant amount of the ESSER funds that will still be available to us for the next couple of fiscal years. And then really not much change on the operating side. So moving forward then, I've given you some budget forecasts and expenditure forecasts. Really those I just update annually based on our best information. So moving forward, you'll see those change a little bit. But again, the big dollars for us come in terms of the tax rate. I'm actually projecting our property tax rate that Jeremy doesn't have to calculate until September. But I'm projecting that it will probably drop again a little bit this year because our assessed valuation is probably going to go up a little bit. And those are correlated in a negative correlation. Prop C, again, is projected to be over $1,200 a pupil. I was a little bit conservative there and only estimated $1,200 per ADA. The state's telling us it should be more like $1,259 per student. But sales tax is, of all of these revenue sources, by far the most volatile, meaning it's the most quickly changed by anything economically. So if we experience a downturn in the economy, you don't actually have to have physical, actual changes in people's ability to buy. Just the perception of their ability to buy can change what they decide to buy. And so that can change sales tax very quickly. Income tax lags about a year if there's a real downturn, and property lags even a little further because that's only assessed on an every other year cycle. So that's I guess good news, is that we tend to have a little bit of a warning if we're going to see any changes in our property tax valuations because it takes a while for them to take effect. And again, that's by far our biggest area of revenue. On the expenditure side, the big news as far as where we're increasing our spending is related to inflation. We're seeing, obviously fuel and food and other things we buy are going up. Those are a very small percentage, though, of what we purchase. The biggest increase in our spending is on personnel. And we knew that, when we recommended those increases to you with a 3.5% for the those employees covered by SCEA and SCSSEA. And then for transportation, you remember we approved a 6.5% increase for drivers for next year, not for all of their employees, but for drivers because of the incredibly tight market for them as well. The following couple of pages just show you in a little bit more detail the expenditure summary and our revenue summary and then the net debt service of the district. You can see right now we have a net call on debt service through the next 20 years of $116 million. Right now, we don't have that much debt, but that's what we will pay over the life of that amortization. You'll notice, though, if you look down on the net debt service, the far right-hand column, that these are periods ending on 6/30. So this is so that it corresponds with our budget years. You see the next 4 years, those are fairly high numbers, 8.5 million to about 9.3 million, and then you see a dip. That's a intentional drop in the call on the debt service fund that would allow us, if you choose to at that time, to run another bond issue and to layer that bond issue in again to take care of additional facility needs. And we've been intentional about trying to structure our debt that way so that, planning years in advance, we don't really know what the board will do in 3 more years probably, but it at least allows that opportunity. If you choose not to do that at that time, there's also the opportunity to try and buy back more of the debt quicker, pay less interest on it if that would be the will of the board. And then finally, the last page is what I would consider the budget message. It's really just in narrative form, all of those facts and figures that we've been talking about that accounts for significant changes in our district in one way or another. And obviously the beauty of a district like ours is that with the stability of our population, we don't have dramatic swings. The district Danielle's going to, most of you know, has been one of the fastest growing in the state. They actually did not grow this year. Big news for them. But when you're a fast-growing district, then you have to really be planning years in advance for that growth. If you're really shrinking quickly, you have to be cutting back quickly. So there are some advantages to being where we are. But it does mean that some of those areas of revenue are pretty stagnant for us. They're not going to change much over time, which then becomes, again, a bit of a budgeting challenge when we have a great staff who, myself included, have benefited from regular raises in pay. Any questions?
I have 2 questions.
Yes, ma'am.
The employee insurance, we're self-insured. Is that still saving us money?
Yes.
Okay.
I can unequivocally say that. Just 2 comments on that. One related to the bridge. Dr. Seifert and I and Jeremy were all, I don't think anybody else here, we're all in the review for the Bridge Health Center, which is our employee clinic that we've been running now for 6 years. We still are running at almost a 3-to-1 return on investment on that versus those same services being provided in the marketplace. So that's always something that I want to make sure you know that the bridge does cost us money, right? I mean, we are paying to run it, but it is saving us money compared to those other services. The other thing that I feel confident in saying, yes, we're making some money versus other options by being self-insured is we're receiving our drug rebates. We have better control of the levers. There are only so many levers you can pull with a health plan. If you have high utilization, you have to pay for it. And we had one of those years this past year. We had high utilization. But if you're not self-insured, really the only thing you can do is make changes to plan design. When you're self-insured, then you have a few more levers how you can adjust along the way. So I hope that answers your question, but yes.
Yeah. And the other question is about the debt service. I like how you explained that, your philosophy about smaller bond issues more frequently, but I'm horrified that at the amount of money that we're paying in interest. I wasn't aware, well, I knew, but are there some strategies we could follow that would reduce the amount of interest that we're paying?
Well, so one of the things that we always look at is when we're getting ready for a bond issue, we try and sell for as low an interest rate as possible. And so like this last bond issue, we are paying less than 3% on some of our early bonds and not more than about 3% on the tail end of that 20-year bond issue. And so we always do look at it when we're in the process of selling bonds. And obviously, we don't know where inflation's going. So if we had a bond issue today, we would pay more on those bonds than we are currently. Excuse me. But Ellen, your question is one that frequently comes up. So people will say, well, why don't you just save money? So one of the analogies that I think is not perfect, but is similar for most of us, is that we could, as a district, begin setting aside some money and try and save it. But as pertains to the debt service fund, right now we have 75 cents there, which gains us about, give or take, $8 million a year. If we don't have debt, we can't levy that 75 cents. So we can't just pay down the debt and then still levy 75 cents. It would actually drop. And so we'd lose that levy. We can't save it in operating unless we get the people to increase the operating rate for us. So for most people, the analogy that works is in terms of home ownership. That most of us don't save cash until we can afford to buy the house outright. We have a down payment and then we pay it off over 20 or 30 years. So in the school district world, the state has some specific limits about what funds you can put where. And so they don't give us any help in terms of facilities. They do, obviously, in terms of the foundation formula for educating students. So we use that to pay teachers primarily. But we don't get any help from the state on facilities, and that's a completely local option. But they put that limit related to debt service on it. So we can build out of Fund 4, but that money all comes right out of Fund 1. So it takes away from our ability to do operating kind of projects. And so unless we were to get the voters to approve funding in Fund 1, for us, again, the very rough math is for every penny of our levy, we're going to levy about $100,000. So right now, we put 20 cents of our levy into Fund 4 to deal with maintenance projects, transportation, other technology projects, big curriculum purchases, which gets us about $2 million a year. Other than that, we get those every 3, 4, 5-year bond issues that then we pay for over time using that debt service levy. So could we do it? Sort of, but it would take us a long time to get enough money to really do the projects that we need to do.
Any other questions? This is your last chance to sing. No, we get to sing again. You come up
Still a
again.
financial report.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the budget adoption for 22-23?
I move to approve the 22-23 annual budget as presented.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that's approved. Our final district financial report from Charles.
Yes. I tried to give it to Jeremy. He said he didn't want to do it tonight. He maybe take over next month. Yeah, I do.
That's funny, I tried to do the same thing for the MSIP report with Earl, and he said the same thing.
Oh.
See, they're going to be ready. But for tonight, I'll make it short and sweet. You can see we started the month with about $40 million in the bank. We've spent about $7 million more than we took in. That's not unusual this time of year. And on the second slide, Chris, you can see on salaries and employee benefits, that is accounted for $65.5 million of the $83.5 we've spent so far this year. You'll see a big jump in the report you'll get next month, which shows the double payment to all the 10-month staff that we do in June of every year. But all that said, we really are in pretty good shape. You see, a couple of you have already noticed that the projected ending fund balance is at 17.7%. We do have a significant tranche of federal funds for ESSER reimbursement and then for food service that are coming in the June payment. So they should be reflected next month, which I think will actually mean we'll end up at more than 20%. We also, remember this time of year, kids are gone. It's still technically the fiscal year, but we're not spending right now other than on salary. So we probably have 1% left in our supply budgets across the district that won't get spent. And we don't let people keep that. It rolls over. I mean, it goes back to zero and we start them again on July 1. So I think we're still in pretty good shape on that final ending fund balance. And, the real tail of the tape will come after we've filed the ASBR, which is due August 15th. And then you'll see kind of what the final balance was there. Questions?
I admit that 17 did look scary, but
It's worse than I would like for it to be, but I think it's just a sign of where we are, honestly.
Any questions for you? Come on, this is your chance. Keep asking him questions.
Well, I'll
Okay.
tell you, before you get a chance to zing me too much, I'll tell you, this has been the best job I've ever had. So I will miss all of you. I will not necessarily miss long board meetings. But,
What?
But I will miss the job. And you can check in with me next year to see whether I've changed my tune on whether this is the best job ever or not. But it's been my pleasure. Thank you.
Do I have a motion to approve the financial report?
I make a motion to approve the financial report.
A second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The financial report passes. And finally, 9.01, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Oh,
Nope.
Jason, we didn't talk transportation.
Oh, that's a good one.
We need to do that. Can we back up slightly? It's not part of the report, but Jason and I discussed, and Jeremy's up to speed on this as well, but our challenges in getting bus drivers has Mrs. Priest and her staff significantly worried about our ability to staff all of our routes for next year. So we've had some preliminary discussions with administrators to kind of get them up to speed on that as well. But one of the things that, of a couple that we know we're going to try and do is we're going to try to eliminate some routes and run buses a little fuller. That becomes the biggest challenge at our middle level buildings. We already have our heaviest ridership at Jefferson and Hardin. So that means we've got, give or take 16, 18 buses, big buses, and then our vans at each of those two buildings. We're going to try and eliminate some of those routes, but the big challenge, of course, is that they both cover the whole district, and Hardin's on the east side. So we've got some routes going all the way west that completely full would take more than 45 minutes. The same coming from Jefferson east. And so we're trying to work through some of that in a couple of ways. One, we're going to try and eliminate a couple of routes at one at each high school at least by requiring high school students to request transportation instead of just putting them all on a bus. I can tell you we already have, in theory, we've got rosters on our high school buses of 100 to 150 kids but they don't ride. But rather than just put everybody that's eligible on a bus, we're going to ask them to request transportation and hopefully eliminate a bus at each of those buildings. We think we can eliminate 2 or 3 buses at both Hardin and Jefferson. But what that may mean is Hardin on the first tier in the morning. In order to get all those kids there, they may not be able to run second tier. Or a Jefferson bus may not be able to run on the second tier, may not be able to run third if they're coming all the way across town. So one of the things we've discussed, we don't know that we'll have to do it, but one of the things we've discussed would be to move a couple of our schools to different tiers, to maybe allow Jefferson to ride in the middle tier by itself. Nobody's excited about that, but Jason and Jeremy and Cindy and I will continue to look at that a bit and make some determinations, hopefully sooner than later. But, especially if we're going to have to move somebody to a different tier.
When you say moving to a different tier, you mean a different start time?
Yes. Yes, potentially. The other option that we've seen a couple of districts take on that we're not considering right now would be to add a 4th tier. That is apple cart upset for pretty much everybody. And so we're trying to see what we can do to be as efficient as we can without going to that kind of a step. And so that's not being contemplated for next year, so don't hear that, say that. But within our three-tier system, we may need to shuffle a couple of schools if that would help.
But the reason why I wanted to make sure we get that out tonight is because there will be some tweaks, there will be some changes, and we'll just keep you updated on what that looks like next month. Charles is right, we did let the administration know that in our May meeting. Actually, we let the SCA leadership know too with Mr. Kearns in our last meeting in May. I don't know if he shared that with you all. I said at that point it wasn't really for mass consumption for everybody to know about it, but we wanted to make sure that we're getting the word out because you've seen it on the news. A lot of the school districts are struggling with this. And so our district has been blessed because they've done a great job. That leadership over there and under Charles and our transportation team has done a great job. And just so you know, everybody who can drive over there drives for us. So sometimes it's been smoke and mirrors, and it's time for us, at least I thought it was time, to go ahead and put it out there that we're really looking at some changes and some tweaks. We have quite a few people not leaving us just to leave, but they're retiring. There's a good group there. Charles probably already mentioned that. But then we're just having a hard time finding bus drivers, and everybody is. So
Just philosophically, when an employee leaves us, I think at some point, we don't necessarily want to rehire people that have chosen to leave us. But I'll tell you, with drivers, that's not a possibility right now. If somebody wants, and so everybody's it's a dog-eat-dog world out there right now. And so people are stealing drivers from wherever they can get them. And so, if you talk to some of our drivers, they'll tell you Francis Howell's paying more than we are, and that's in fact true for many of them. But we can't jump 15 or 20%, so we jumped that 6.5. We feel like that's we're doing as much as we can to recruit and retain our existing staff. But the drivers that want to move to make a few more dollars are going to be able to do it. And so we just keep trying to emphasize a good culture and that we pay them year-round instead of them not having summer checks, that we have a full benefits plan. They have the same benefit plan that our superintendent has. And so we do believe we've got some things that are keeping our core group there. But just because there's more opportunity for some of our younger drivers, and we've had some retirements, that we find ourselves in a pretty tight position.
we just need to get it out there because
Yep.
we don't want to surprise anybody come August.
Okay, now do we have a motion to adjourn?
Good
I
rem-
move we adjourn.
Do I have a second? I second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you all.